Thank you, Leader. First of all, I think we have to recognise the extraordinary pressures that the Adults Wellbeing and Health Partnerships budget is under, from rising costs, an ageing population and more demand. Action really is essential to restructure what we're doing, to transform what we're doing, and a very key part of that is the intention to roll out technology-enabled care across Surrey, which I also view as a major opportunity to actually improve the day-to-day care of residents, enabling them to be in their own home, but actually looking after them better at the same time. We do have some open issues still. I think national insurance and the increase in national insurance is one, with the effects that that is going to have on the social care market. The change to the living wage, again, puts more pressure on employers of care staff who tend to be at that sort of level. So that's not yet fully factored into the numbers, I feel. If we are to do that kind of transformation, then the culture change that goes alongside it to help people understand how things are changing, why they're changing, why it is actually better for them, all need to actually be brought in and managed very, very carefully. The other factor that we also have to bear in mind is that the NHS is part of this as well, and we have to factor that in, how we are working with them. They themselves are introducing technology aimed at keeping people in their homes to be looked after. We need to make sure that we are properly joined up in how we do that, both technically, management-wise, culturally, so that it's one approach rather than 3 or 4 different approaches. Overall, I think the Select Committee feels very strong risk management is going to be something that has to be a feature here, with independent monitoring and reporting to keep strict control of the risks, with a focus on very effective early action being taken to correct problems. And that's absolutely key if the service is going to maintain its spending within the desired cost envelope, and at the same time provide the services to residents that are required to actually keep them and enable them to have the life that they would like to have.
Thank you very much, Trevor. I mean, I think just picking up on 2 or 3 of those points, so you're absolutely right that, and we haven't seen the detail, at the moment our expectation is that the direct cost, increased cost of national insurance and national living wage for this council, the employees of this council, will be reimbursed by the government, but what we haven't had confirmation is that that will extend to our providers. The government announced 680 million of additional funding into adult social care in the budget, but all of our share of that, which is probably no greater than 10 million, all of that will be wiped out by the increased costs that almost certainly will be passed on from our providers. So that is going to leave probably a further gap in our budget. There's currently a gap of 17.4 million on the basis that council taxes increased by 2.99%. We will be encouraged by the government to use the maximum increase that we are allowed, which would mean adding on another 2% precept for adult social care, and that probably in itself would close that 17.4 million gap. But we don't know what the impact of the national insurance is. I think that just to mention, perhaps in passing, but from a local government perspective, a huge milestone yesterday with the government's publication of a white paper in relation to English devolution, and that sets out the government's direction of travel and agenda, which will be the first major reform of the structure of local government since 1974. We are in what is known as a two-tier authority. So we have a county council, we have 11 district and boroughs, and we have over 100 parish and town councils actually. But the government have requested a submission from all of the two-tier areas, and there are 21 councils in that situation across the country, in terms of how we would look to restructure. And part of the motivation for moving that local government reorganisation forward, from what the government say, is to deliver some savings, in the hope or the expectation that those savings will be repurposed back into frontline services. I think we have to recognise that, and there's been a lot of discussion around this and who's to blame, but we have to recognise that there is little, if any, new money that is going to come into the system for public service. So it is about making the best of what we have got. The second part of the government's agenda is around public service reform, and touching on the point you made around the NHS. We do overlap with them, particularly in relation to discharge from hospital. And indeed, we have a plan and are encouraged to look at the closer integration of health and social care. The health system, although it received 22.6 billion, as against the 680 million that adult social care received, I gather a high percentage of that will go to fund national insurance contributions. So I think, the landscape is not great, and it does mean that, particularly in relation to adult social care, which is over 50% of our total budget for this council, that we have to find ways of delivering those improved services that we absolutely want to do, using technology, but also working closely with our partners in terms of ways in which we can drive that greater efficiency. So thank you for the Select Committee's comments. We will take those away in the context of tomorrow's announcement around the actual draft financial settlement. Only 1 year in my whole time as a councillor has the government actually changed the draft financial settlement. That was last year, after heavy lobbying. I'm sure there'll be heavy lobbying this year, but I'm not as confident that it will change. But that's very helpful. You've highlighted the areas of concern, and we will pick those up and then come back, say in January, with any revision to the budget.
Well, thank you, Leader. There is just one small point that I would pick up on, which is self-funders also will be hit by the national insurance change and the change to the minimum living wage. And, of course, self-funders, many of them will eventually look to us to pick up their care at a later date. So we get an impact right the way across the care market.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually, which I suspect has passed a lot of people by. And bearing in mind that we have almost the highest percentage in the country of self-funders, that would have a significant impact for us. So, yeah,